Good morning. Good Tuesday morning, Grenada, Carriacou, PG, Martinique, the Eastern Caribbean, and the rest of the world. Hope everybody is well on this fantastic Tuesday. It is the 7th day of September 2021, the 7th day of the best month of the year. Happy am I to be here with you. Happy to have you. Thank you so very much for starting your morning off with us here at the GBN. Always appreciate your listenership, your viewership. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your company. Whichever platform you're using this morning, whether it's the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, the website, GBN TV, Classic 105.5, 105.9, Hot 98.5, 98.7, as well as Party Grenada and Go to Fet Facebook pages. Bless up your whole pretty and handsome selves. To all our viewers and listeners across the Caribbean, whichever part of the region you are, a spicy Grenadian 473 morning to each and every one of you. And those of you joining us internationally, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Hope you will have a good day, are having a good day, have had a good day. To the listeners of Hot 98, Mr. Smooth is not with you this morning, so I am filling his spot. Hopefully I'm going to do a good job with you this morning, hot listeners. Bless up your whole selves. All right. 20 minutes on to 7 o'clock. Just enough time for us to get into this morning's word of the day. This morning's word of the day is indefatigable. Indefatigable. It's spelled I-N-D-E-F-A-T-I-G-A-B-L-E. Indefatigable. It is an adjective which means incapable of being tired out, not yielding to fatigue, or untiring. Indefatigable has changed little in spelling and meaning since its origin in the Latin adjective which means untiring, or more literally not tire or out able. The adjective derives from the verb fatiguer, which means to tire, the source of the English word fatigue, but its ultimate origin is not known. It entered English in the late 1500s. The word of the day this morning, indefatigable. It's spelled I-N-D-E-F-A-T-I-G-A-B-L-E, an adjective which means incapable of being tired out, not yielding to fatigue, or untiring. An example of the use of the word: no opponent could rival Tolstoy's indefatigable thirst for the game of tennis. That's the word of the day this morning. It's a long way of saying you can't tire, you're full up of energy. Like them little toddlers we have at home, they're indefatigable. They can't get tired at all when you want to sleep. They keep going like the Energizer Bunny. That's the long word of saying you can't tire. Indefatigable. I-N-D-E-F-A-T-I-G-A-B-L-E. Indefatigable. It is an adjective meaning incapable of being tired out, not yielding to fatigue, or untiring. Let's see what's the thought of today to get us through the next 24 hours. The thought for today, and you can use it in any circumstance that you need: let it hurt, let it bleed, let it heal, and let it go. Let it hurt, let it bleed, let it heal, and let it go. It is a natural course of things that hurt us, things that anger us, things that we don't like, but we have to go through. It's a part of this thing called life. But sometimes you just have to let it go through the process. It's not an easy fix. It's not going to take a short space of time for you to get over it. So you just have to go through the process. But don't worry, it's going to get better. Let it hurt. Let it bleed. Let it heal. And let it go. It's a natural course of things. Just let it go through the process. It's going to get better. And in the end, let it go. That's the thought for today. Let it hurt. Let it bleed. Let it heal. And let it go. The thought of the day. Love it this morning. All right, let's see what is, I don't want to say celebrated because it does not spark good memories for everybody. So what is commemorated today? The date should spark some memory for you. September 7th, 2021. That's right. Today it is 17 years since the passage of Hurricane Ivan, September 7th, 2004. That's why I say not celebrated but commemorated. The graphic there is the path that Ivan, the deadly hurricane, passed all those years ago. for those of you on our visual platform. So it's today that we remember all the things that happens. Right now, we could think, some of us actually, we could think about what happened 17 years ago with the passage of Ivan, maybe a chuckle here. I think of what we went through to get to today, 17 years later. Might bring a smile, might bring up bad memories, but it is a part of Grenada's history, and it is a day that I don't think we would ever forget for generations to come. We need to tell our children about Hurricane Ivan, having to find shelter elsewhere, and depending on oh gosh, how do they call them again, boy? The food supplies from away. What is the name I'm looking for again, boy? I can't remember the name. Ration. That's it. Depending on rations to eating rice and corned beef for weeks until they don't want to see rice and corned beef in a hurry again. We're doing without electricity, picking up the pieces, rebuilding. We've come a very long way over the last 17 years. So it is 17 years since the passage of Hurricane Ivan in September 7th, 2004, and it's a day that we commemorate in Grenada's history. Not celebrate for some of us, commemorate in Grenada's history. And just before we go to the news, just some information for those of you on our visual platforms that won't be able to hear the morning edition of news. The latest COVID-19 dashboard revealed or released by the Ministry of Health yesterday. Grenada recorded 231 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total since March 2020 to 1,473. Grenada currently has 1,194 active cases, 9 imported, 1,185 are considered active cases. So just giving you an idea of what the latest COVID dashboard looks like. Almost 1,500 COVID-19 cases are recorded in Grenada. Most, over 1,000 of them recorded within the last 2 weeks. Please continue to be safe and stay tuned. This is Classic 105 and GBN. Let's get ready for the morning edition of news. For those of you on radio and those of you on our visual platforms, we bring you highlights of last evening's newscast. Good morning, Grenada, on a terrific Tuesday morning. Stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Coronavirus is having its day in Grenada, as Health Minister prophesied several weeks ago. The virus has claimed its 12th victim in Grenada, according to figures issued by the Health Ministry. As you will hear in this summary from Chrislina John, the number of deaths and hospitalizations have risen exponentially during the last 72 hours.
One vaccinated person among the 12 COVID-19 related deaths. Health Minister Nicholas Steele indicated that it was a lone elderly female in her 90s. The minister also highlighted the number of persons presently hospitalized.
And that was a 97-year-old female. 29 patients in total. 7 are critical. 2 of those 7 is a very bad prognosis.
A press statement from the Government Information Service stated that most of the COVID-19 deaths were unvaccinated people. However, it provided no breakdown on how many persons who died were vaccinated. 7 more COVID-related deaths were announced in the past 24 hours, which brings the total number to 12 since the start of the pandemic in Grenada in March 2020. Minister Steele explained that it can be ruled a COVID death even without a post-mortem.
The same way when somebody is run over by a vehicle or knocked down by a vehicle, you don't need to have an autopsy to prove that it was because of the vehicle or death that they died. That the body from the trauma of the vehicular accident or the body from the trauma of COVID-19 succumbs, and its weakest spot eventually becomes its failure spot. So yes, that is why with COVID-19, the information known worldwide, it is not necessary to go all the way to an autopsy, because you know that this is what has caused the trauma to result in whatever part of the body failing to cause hospitalization.
The deceased, all of whom had comorbidities, were confirmed cases of COVID-19, ranging in age from 26 to 85 years. The Ministry of Health has also confirmed that 5 of the deaths were among patients admitted to the General Hospital, with 1 death at the Princess Alice Hospital, the 7th person dying at home. Data provided by the Ministry of Health indicates that 4 of the deceased are females and 3 males. 4 of the deceased were residents of St. George, while the remaining 3 were from St. Andrew. The Ministry of Health continues to encourage Grenadians to get vaccinated, as this reduces the risk of severe diseases, hospitalization, and death attributed to COVID-19. They are also encouraging the population to follow the recommended COVID-19 protocols to safeguard themselves. Christelina John, GBN News.
A local medical practitioner is concerned that persons who are displaying symptoms of COVID-19 are self-medicating for the common cold without getting tested. He tells GBN that this is dangerous and persons should get tested.
With over 1,000 active COVID-19 cases in Grenada and the Ministry of Health continuing rigorous contact tracing in almost all parishes, speculations are rife that many of the cases are only that of the flu, which is common at this time of year. Medical practitioner Dr. Terence Marisho is appealing to people to stop the assumptions.
But the COVID tests are COVID specific. They detect COVID, not the flu. We're not doing flu testing here. We are doing COVID testing. So the ones that will turn up positive, you think they have 400 and odd cases because of some random thing that they pulled out of a hat? No, it's because they did testing. And the tests that we have now, as far as we can see, they're quite reliable.
The Ministry of Health is concerned that persons who are exhibiting symptoms are home and treating themselves for the flu without proper medical advice.
In these critical times, I don't think we should be wondering whether it is a flu or whether it is a COVID. People need to get themselves tested in this time to ensure that it is not COVID and it is the flu. The increase we are seeing right now ought to be concerning to just about everybody, because we're not talking about a simple increase in cases, we're talking about an exponential increase in cases which have been detected. We are capable of providing tests and doing testing to ensure and to confirm that what we are dealing with is COVID versus the flu.
Health officials are also appealing to those who are exhibiting symptoms to practice all proper hygienic measures to curb the spread of the virus.
The Royal Grenada Police Force is not being spared the wrath of the deadly coronavirus. Dozens of officers have been diagnosed as being COVID-19 positive. Rena Perry-Thomas tells us more in this report.
We have been sanitizing all of our buildings we have brought in several companies or a particular company that have been assisting us in sanitizing most of our police stations, in addition to the officers themselves who have protocols to follow with respect to sanitization, with respect to the distancing, with respect to wearing of masks, with respect to washing of hands.
That was Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Francois outlining some of the measures put in place to safeguard officers and to curb the spread of the virus within the Royal Grenada Police Force. Francois was reassuring members of the force, their families and the public that the lawmen will be safe. He announced the confirmation of over 80 positive COVID-19 cases within the RGPF.
I can confirm to you now that as it stands of today, we have 82 positive cases within the Royal Grenada Police Force. 11 of those were overnight within the last 24 hours. So as of yesterday, it was 71, and we had 11 in the last 24 hours. So as it stands now, we are 82. This is significantly affecting the operations of the Royal Grenada Police Force. However, with our commitment to do what is expected of us to ensure the safety and security of Grenada, we are pushing ahead.
In August, the RGPF announced its first COVID-19 case in the St. John district, prompting the Ministry of Health to administer rigorous contact tracing and testing throughout all departments. The Deputy Commissioner is also appealing to members of the RGPF to play their parts to protect their families and co-workers.
We do have our tests that are carried out at the stations with respect to the monitoring of persons' temperature and all the protocols that are established. We are following them at the stations to ensure. And at the same time, I must point out that we are also recommending to officers that they should get vaccinated. This is something that we have been going right around the police force and encouraging officers to do. It's not mandatory, but we have been advising officers in their best interest and their family interest that they should get vaccinated.
He was speaking at a special media briefing held by members of the RGPF over the weekend. For GBN News, I am Rena Pear-Thomas reporting.
Meanwhile, if you are outside when you should not be, you had better be aware that the lawmen will be out. They will adopt a zero-tolerance policy in enforcing new containment measures, which were announced by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell on the weekend.
Assistant Commissioner of Police Jessamine Prince says the new emergency powers regulation issued by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell over the weekend will be strictly enforced by officers of the RGPF. ACP Prince explained that officers will be patrolling the towns, ensuring that all protocols are kept in and outside business places. He informed that during the no movement days, roadblocks will be erected.
What you're going to be seeing us doing in the coming days, as of tonight, is our patrols will be out in every community, on the streets, and checking on businesses, checking on people for wearing the mask and for adhering to the protocols and complying with the curfew regulations. You're also going to see various roadblocks throughout the state, and again, accessing passage through these roadblocks require every person, to have an access pass, which would be issued by the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Essential workers are asked to comply with the lawmen by showing their IDs, passes, and other information needed when they are stopped at the various checkpoints. In the regulation, there are listed a number of essential workers. And if you are belonging to any entity, any company or institution, and that institution has an ID system, we are expecting and anticipating that you will have that ID system with you when you are accessing the checkpoints. If you are without an ID, accessing these
checkpoints could become very difficult.
All passes will be issued by the RGPF through written applications, which will be reviewed by the officers. Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Francois warns that anyone who attempts to forge passes will face the full extent of the law.
I'd like to encourage persons to be very careful if you would be attempting to do such in presenting a pass that is not authentic, because you're not only going to be dealt with for the COVID regulations, but the other general criminal laws of Grenada is going to kick in, where you're going to be arrested for those as well. So we are aware, as Mr. Prince rightly indicated, what are the features on our passes. We have specimens of all the passes that are to be issued, and in the event that any pass is uttered to a police officer on the ground and it is recognized to be not authentic, we are going to be dealing with this very seriously with respect to the laws of Grenada, COVID-wise, and the criminal laws of Grenada.
Persons and business owners who are seeking passes can send their applications to rgpfcovidops@gmail.com. For GBN News, I am Rena Pear-Thomas reporting.
And while the lawmen give effect to the rules, some are crying out. Farmers and fishermen are among those voicing concerns. More in this Christina John report.
Farmers and Fishers representative in the Senate, Roderick St. Clair, says farmers have been reaching out to him concerning their position with the adjustments in regulations.
Farmers and fishers and so on need to fit in within all of this. I've also been in discussion with also even some of the fisheries extension and start looking at the issues. I think we are making good progress from where I sit. And the police, I think, have done a wonderful job in explaining that you have your ID, you're going about your normal business. This is the most important thing. The second part is that we want to also recognize to the authority for maybe the first time, and I hope it's not revoked or repealed, that our whole agriculture sector, farmers and fishers, are recognized as an essential service.
St. Clair wants farmers to act responsibly, given the fact that they are considered essential service providers.
I don't expect you to be in such period when you should be in a way of alacrity, as you say, moving to your business, liming and hanging and doing things that is not towards what you're supposed to be doing. Then that creates a problem for not only one individual but for the whole sector, and then we can lose the gains that we have made. So I am making a special appeal in this regards that we conduct our business in a purposeful way for which we are given the permission to do.
This is his advice to farmers without a farmer's ID.
But farmers have to mind the business. And IDs are important thing, and so you need to ensure that if you are getting problems and challenges, then there are ways to report it and get that matter resolved.
Police say farmers have been taken into consideration as essential workers within the new regulations and can request a pass to ply their trade.
The Act speaks to farmers and so on being allowed to move with the express approval by the Commissioner of Police. So the expectation is that a farmer would apply for a permit to operate during that period of time, and they will be given the permit to move between the period of the curfew, not the period of the curfew, but the period of the restriction of movement, whether it is during the curfew or during the weekend lockdown period. Once that permit is given to the person, that permit will be valid upon the expiration of the period of the curfew.
Christina John, GBN News.
The mainland continues to struggle with the spread of COVID-19. The sister isle of Carriacou is also fighting the virus with 4 confirmed cases. Government officials have already implemented measures to protect Carriacou and Petit Martinique from the virus. Rena Pear-Thomas tells us more.
Health officials in Carriacou have confirmed 4 positive COVID-19 cases with mild symptoms. 2 of the individuals recently traveled to Grenada. The remaining 2 have no travel history over the past 2 weeks and are not part of the contact tracing of the first 2 individuals. Medical doctor Wilfred Seesaw, attached to the Princess Royal Hospital, says despite this, they cannot yet confirm community spread.
So it's important to to know that we're going in a very serious situation now here in Carriacou. We can't confirm community spread, but of course that could be a talk of the coming days, because as things looking right now, we cannot confirm it as yet. And we are trying with all the cases that we have so far. Contact tracing has started on all these 4 cases. So far, thank God, we didn't get no new, no confirming case from the contact of all those 4 cases that we have so far. But of course, we cannot say yet, because days coming that we have to do testing still, and some of these contacts has to be retested still.
The doctor was speaking alongside the Minister of Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs and the local government, Kendra Matuin-Stewart, on a radio interview over the weekend. Minister Stewart acknowledged that, like mainland Grenada, they have been faced with non-compliance of protocols from persons in the community. She said many households and businesses are affected by the virus.
And what we have noticed with the cases that are coming forward are young persons so far. Are young persons, and these persons are unvaccinated. What I can say is that there are several households, several businesses as well, including some government businesses or some government buildings that will have to be shut as a result of the contact tracing and the isolation that is necessary and needed at this time to get a handle and a hold as to our present circumstances. But in terms of numbers, we are unable to say, well, 40, 50, but a significant number of households are under isolation and quarantine at the moment.
Restrictions on inter-traveling between Grenada and the sister isles are among protocols put in place to curb the spread of the virus on the small islands. Persons who have to travel to or from the sister isles must submit to COVID testing and receive written clearance from the Ministry of Health. Deputy Commissioner of Police Michael Francois, in a press conference over the weekend, says the Coast Guard Department has also upped its game in enforcing protocols.
We have had our Coast Guard unit monitoring all our coastlines, and we have additionally beefed up the Coast Guard response at Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So there are vessels up there. We have sent in an additional vessel to Carriacou, which is monitoring our waters between Grenada, Carriacou, and the other islands which surround those islands. So the Coast Guard is up and about, and we are doing what is expected with respect to COVID and other illegal activities in those areas.
Grenada has over 1,000 active coronavirus cases. The numbers are expected to increase in the coming days. For GBN News, I am Rena Per-Thomas reporting.
The leader of the opposition, Tobias Clement, noting the worldwide struggle with vaccine hesitancy, said several factors must be considered even while combating the misinformation that is being spread. He used examples such as Japan, which has reported vaccination numbers to be in the teens, and the USA, where only around 30% among African Americans are vaccinated.
And this is because of what they call the Tuskegee experiment from the 1930s to the 1970s, and the way African Americans were treated. I don't even think Japan is up in the teens in terms of vaccination because of the history. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of education to do. And while we educate our people, we must be mindful that there are other avenues of education. Vaccine hesitancy is not merely, okay, you are stupid so you're not taking the vaccine. But there are legitimate reasons why people are hesitant. And we have to educate them as to the effects and how they can overcome that hesitancy.
Clement, who has supported the vaccination campaign, highlighted the benefits of becoming vaccinated.
We see a situation now that some people are thinking it doesn't matter if I get the vaccine or not, you'll still get it. But the question is, the underlying question is that you will build up immunity to fight against COVID-19 when you take the vaccine. So you may not get as sick as if you did not have it, or or you may not get as sick onto hospitalization, or you may not get as sick onto death. And the same scientists will tell you, the frightening thing about it, the longer we stay to get to that point, is the more dangerous that virus can become. There is one word that we did not speak in this house. There is what is also known as a super virus. And I pray to God, Mr. Speaker, I pray to God that COVID-19 do not come to the point of a super virus.
Occupational health and safety in the workplace continues to be a bane for some members of the Public Workers Union. This, however, is not directly related to COVID-19, but is adversely affecting employees at one of the establishments represented by the PWU. We get the details in this report.
The Richmond Home for the Elderly is undergoing full-fledged construction, according to PW President Brian Grimes, while the geriatric residents and workers share the same environment.
This is totally unacceptable. The union engaged the relevant authorities at the Ministry of Health and asked for further engagement so we can again come to a collaborative win-win situation.
Grimes says the union requested its inclusion in the process of relocating the residents and workers to another location while construction continues. However, such requests were rejected, and the union leader says the female residents were moved to 3 R's Primary School on Mars Hill.
Both locations were surveyed by occupational safety and health experts. The union has the reports, and both locations were deemed untenable for both patients and workers.
He notes the challenges such as the ongoing construction at the Richmond Home and poor air quality, as well as lack of space at 3 R's.
I know some people may ask, well, what are the workers still doing there? They are dedicated. They are basically people who are part of the essential service. So they do not want to abandon their posts. And this, I'm telling you, as president of the union, can be misinterpreted by those in authority that they are satisfied with their surroundings. And that is far from the case.
The PW president says apart from the workers' education, there is an inherent fear due to many of the employees being under contract work.
So the roof may be crumbling over their heads, and they may think about paying a bill, or the child have to go to school, or something of that nature. So they sacrifice, and the authorities use that against them to blackmail them to stay in environments that are detrimental to their health and safety.
GBN sought a response from Minister of Health Nicholas Steele, who says he wishes that the union would work with the ministry to find ideal solutions instead of throwing accusations.
Remember, the Public Workers Union represent the very members of the Ministry of Health. It is not the minister and the PS alone that have to solve all these problems. The very members are part of the team.
The minister says it is unfair to the health team that the PWU, rather than acknowledge the efforts to improve the conditions at the Richmond Home via the complete renovation, are nitpicking on the process. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
Tonight's I Saw, we feature a massive pumpkin grown in the garden of Mary St. Paul, also known as Cooley. The pumpkin was grown in Waltham, St. Mark. We thank our I Saw reporter for that submission. Send us your photo and video submissions via WhatsApp on 405-3052 or our other social media platforms.
Healthy eating has many health benefits, such as reducing risks of heart disease, stroke, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. But in light of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council is advocating healthy eating to boost the immune system and help fight the virus.
Many people are still not open to vaccination, as more than 70% of the population remains unvaccinated. Executive Secretary at the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council, Lydia Brown, explains that apart from wearing masks, washing hands, and keeping the 6 feet distancing, eating healthier plays a huge role in fighting the virus.
In strengthening your immune system, you actually allow your body to be able to recognize foreign agents entering the body and so is able to respond accordingly. Now, we're not saying that by eating these foods, you are never going to get affected. What we're saying is by strengthening your immune system, you will give yourself a better chance. Some people may choose to take a vitamin supplement, but that is not necessary, especially that we know at this time that money might be a little bit scarce. So we can put our resources into getting food.
Healthy eating also means replacing foods that contain trans fats, added salt, and sugar with more nutritious options. A healthy diet typically includes nutrition-dense foods from all major food groups, including lens protein, whole grains, healthful fats, and fruits and vegetables of many colors. Brown outlined some of the local foods we can eat.
Eating a lot of fruits and vegetables where we will get a lot of our vitamin C's and vitamin E's, callaloo and things like that, although they have iron in them, but we must make sure that we're eating them with a vitamin C rich source. Utilizing things like our nuts and again our dry beans and peas, we can get some from our meats, which also give us a ready supply of iron.
Based on reports from the Ministry of Health, Grenada's recorded COVID-19 related deaths have underlying conditions that were linked to chronic diseases. People with other underlying conditions were also given healthy eating guidelines.
Coconut water is a good source for those persons with hypertension, bananas, and so to give them the good sources of potassium. Making sure that they look at labels on packages and making sure that they're not taking in too much sodium and hydrating sufficiently is also part of the nutritional management for hypertension. For the persons who may have diabetes, they don't want to load up excessively on the fruits, but this is where the vegetables come in again. So when you basically look at healthy eating, vegetables are on the forefront for just about every disease management.
Exercise and adequate sleep were also recommended to help boost the immune system. For GBN News, I am Rena Pett Thomas reporting.
Let's get tough on greed and larceny. It will destroy our economy. Larceny threatens our food security. Can hurt us locally, hurt us globally. To all the buyers, ask for license from all produce sellers. To all people, 300 for police for them thieving fellas. To all farmers, please don't steal produce from your brother. Then you're selling to traffickers, hotels and street vendors. Nah, man. Let's do all we can to stop radio larceny. New vigilance, new laws, and a tough judiciary. Stop Grenada's organized business crime. It's time.
To report pre-deal larceny, call 300.
Level of convenience and comfort awaits you when you shop at Rise and Shine Supermarket and Hardware Supplies, Griffin Lane, Grenville. Convenient, because we are open Sunday to Sunday. We're even at your service on public holidays. Comfort, because we are easily accessible to the physically challenged. Free Wi-Fi is available while you shop, and bags come at no charge. Everyday low prices and excellent customer care. Adequate parking available. We supply everything you can possibly think of. Family and home supplies, fresh meat, vegetables, and personal care products. All brands of cooking gas at affordable prices. You can send in your order, have it pulled, or pick up express.
Ultratech gasoline and diesel, available only at Rubis stations.
Welcome back to Good Morning Grenada. It is 18 and a half minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. Those of you just joining us, happy to have you. Those of you who stuck with us, thanks for your patience. To the listeners of Hot 98 who are just tuning on, Gary Mr. Smooth is not in today, so I'm just filling his spot temporarily. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. But in the meantime, you're stuck with me. Joining me virtually for this morning's discussion is the chairman of the Grenada movement, Dr. Patrick Antoine, and he's here this morning as we continue to discuss the evolving situation of Grenada's COVID-19 status. So good morning, Dr. Antoine, and thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Blossom, good morning, and good morning to all of my countrymen, brothers and sisters and friends in Grenada, Carrick, and Petit Martinique.
Before we get into the discussion, I just want to clarify, I remember just a few weeks ago, the TGM launched its political movement campaign, but I notice you still have chairman attached and not political leader. Just want to clarify when political leader would come in.
Well, that's a very good question. The truth is that we have a constitution and we have some lawyers in our midst, and they've been very cautious that no one's preemptive, because everybody, in fact, has a fair chance of acting in accordance with the Constitution. Not to worry, we'll tell you. But the group is well constituted, functioning optimally, and it is my role this morning to address you on behalf of what we've called the founders that the Constitution actually provides for. So we want to make sure that we're very compliant. We're a democratic organization. The word is democratic. And I only smile at that. My other colleagues know what I'm talking about.
Any plans on when the when election will take place for a political leader or the other?
Well, yeah, but this morning is the COVID thing I want to talk about.
No, I understand, but I just want to.
I want to make sure we can get past COVID to elections. No, I think the Constitution, the committee is going to meet. We have a duly constituted group, and I think they will make the decision where that is concerned. Clearly, we don't believe that a democratic institution should operate by picking winners. Essentially, you sort of earmark someone. That is not the process that we want to start this new organization with. We've been very cautious, and we have some who have learned the hard lessons of proceeding in that direction. So they will determine that. There is, in fact, a group that has the paternity over that responsibility.
All right. Okay. So let's get into the real reason why we are having this discussion this morning. Grenada's COVID-19 situation. It has been a tough last 2 weeks. Grenada has recorded just over 1,000 new COVID-19 cases in the last 14 days. Currently, we have 1,194 active cases, 1,473 overall since March 2020. What does the TGM, what does Dr. Antoine think of the current situation in COVID-19 as it is now, and how the contact tracing has been able to turn up so many cases within the last 2 weeks?
Well, a couple of things. Thanks for the opportunity. So let me just say that TGM has a multidisciplinary group working on this matter, and they've been meeting on this, and we're very fortunate to have people with diverse experiences, from medical professionals to persons who have actually been engaged in the process in Grenada and outside, and also persons who are on the policy front. And so essentially what I'm speaking to is a brief that's provided by them. And the first thing is that for us, the big issue today is how do we bend this curve back down? And I think that really is the issue, because what happens with COVID, as we've properly heard, is that the growth is exponential. And for us, the biggest task now is bending that curve. And I think we've heard from the minister, Delma Thomas, that the next 10 days could be, if you wish, devastating, to say the least. And I think for us, the issue then becomes, what do we do between now and that time to bend the curve? We are, of course, very, very cautious about the way in which I think we engage the subject, recognizing that, there's so many factors at play. But I think my group would want me to say this morning, because so many of us have been touched by the deaths of our loved ones and friends, and certainly in my case and many others of family members, that we really express our condolences to all who have been touched by this dreadful disease. And the challenge is not just in terms of mortality. The challenge is also psychological, which in some cases leads to mortality. And I think we need to look at the diverse range of issues regarding this. This week, for instance, I lost a friend who committed suicide. And we're hearing those numbers grow in all the communities. And it really is a cry for us to pay a lot more attention, not just to what's happening at the hospitals, but what's happening at people's homes. And let me say that I think the increase in numbers now, which you've asked about, that is troubling. It's troubling because we think it picks two things. We believe that it is a reflection of the fact that we now have more complete reporting of the statistics. That's not a point that many people have actually fingered, but we have raised for some time that we believe that the numbers were not numbers that reflected, if you wish, the true situation in the country. We think it reflected a lot of numbers from the public facilities in terms of testing, but not the private labs. And so we're very troubled by that. And of course, more than that, I think the fact that the numbers are as they are points to a number of weaknesses that we need to address. Very frankly, we believe that our society has become complacent, and that's one factor. But we also believe that at this stage, the disease has caught us largely, if you wish, from the public policies perspective, not as well prepared as we ought to have been. So from our perspective, I think what needs to be done is that we really need to go back to the fundamentals. The fundamentals really for us are really sanitization, mask. We've said testing, free testing. We've said vaccination. We've said that if vaccinations are free, the testing should be free. Isolation where people are found to be positive, but they can't isolate or self-isolate in their own, places of domicile. We've said, look, we need to have a rapid public policy response. And very, very importantly, we've said that we need to avoid making any more unforced errors. There are a number of unforced errors that I think we have in fact made, and I think we have to cure some of these if we really want to see the bending in the curve in the way that that many would want to see in the next 10 days and moving beyond that.
Our deaths have also gone up, to use the minister's word, exponentially. We have 12 deaths recorded, 7 of them yesterday alone. And one of the sticking points that the health officials have used is the number of vaccinated versus unvaccinated people. Of the 12 or the 7 deaths yesterday, I think there was only 1 person vaccinated. And that's a point that the minister has stressed. How important do you think it is to point out that members of the public need to be vaccinated versus unvaccinated and the statistics there?
I believe that the matter of getting vaccinated is absolutely important. It's a first order priority. I think we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our loved ones. We need to protect our communities. So I want to be clear. I think we now have essentially 3 groups. I think there are people who believe that vaccination is the right thing to do. It's the responsible thing to do. And I think those are not the ones we're talking about. But we're talking about people who, many of them have actually traveled with us, and they believe that it's the right thing to do, but they're afraid. And I'm just focusing on that group and saying that we need to target them some more with proper messaging. And I'm not seeing that enough, where we're actually targeting and giving confidence to people who believe that, look, it's the right thing to do, but for some reason I'm either hesitant or afraid. And then we have the third group. The third group are really anti-vaxxers, and I think we need to work on them as well by trying to understand why they remain, as it were, hesitant about the vaccine. And my own view is that not all of these people are fools. Not all of these people are silly. Not all of these people are irresponsible or reckless. Some of them have genuine concerns that we still need to identify and to address. But what is true is, as a society, we need to bring all of us along, because we need a united approach. As Grenadians, whether you're anti-vaxxer or vaxxer, we need to recognize that there is, in fact, a larger social responsibility for all of us to get on the same page where this disease is concerned, where this virus is concerned, if we're going to beat it. And let me say, while we're on this point, that I want to just thank on behalf of my entire team and all of those people who have reached out to us from outside of TGM and inside, the frontline workers, the medical practitioners, the medical support staff, the orderlies, the cleaners, a lot of whom are exposed to the virus as they go about their own day-to-day chores and responsibilities and tasks. A lot of them, have been just working tirelessly over time, and we've been getting a lot of concerns from nurses, a lot of other people who are contract workers who haven't benefited from the government's 4% increase, and they believe that this is unjust. That a lot of them are on the front line taking risks without the benefit of any kind, if you wish, of consideration. And I believe that this is certainly something we need to look at. So in recognizing that we have a number of persons who are unvaccinated that we need to bring along, I'm simply saying that this entire infrastructure needs to be mutually reinforcing, and it needs to to sort of support, various pillars in this. And part of those, that pillar would be the frontline workers and medical professionals and so on, who we really need to consider, to my mind, in what we're doing, certainly bringing them into the fold, because they're giving so much to our society at this time.
A lot of restrictions have been put in place, highlighted by Prime Minister Mitchell just last Friday in his updated message. What are your thoughts on the rules and regulations that have been put in place to curb the spread, the closure of non-essential businesses? We have 2 no-movement weekends coming up, nightly curfew 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily.
Yeah, I believe the measures are necessary, and I think we may even have to get more stringent measures. I believe that we need to do that first before we shut the entire country down. We have to watch this, though, day by day. I want to repeat, this is in fact a very dynamic situation which needs to be watched day by day. Let me tell you why. When we spoke about this matter last week, we raised the concern that we had with the transportation sector, the public transport sector, if you wish, the bus drivers and operators, and the fact that they now needed to be engaged and they needed to be brought into some kind of arrangement where there was, as it were, burden sharing as we moved on with these new restrictions. And what we meant here is that, the issue of full loads, we actually advocated that we move away from full loads and we move to either 50 or 75%. We believe that not to have done that was not a good step, because we have been hearing and we have been speaking with a number of social partners who have raised this as a concern to us. Secondly, we believe the issue of not sanitizing the buses at the end of the day as a public policy position, borne largely by the government, but perhaps with some contribution by the bus drivers, was an error. And we believe that that is critical, because so many of our people actually travel to and from work and from their social goings and comings by public transport. So, for instance, yesterday, when we heard that there were nearly 20, it may have grown by now, bus drivers / conductors positive, we believe that this is the kind of thing that we need to avoid. And when we look at the regulations, which is why I said perhaps we need to go further, the regulations really doesn't specify a number of things. It doesn't specify that passengers must wear a mask, must sanitize. We've left it, if you wish, to moral suasion. So bus drivers must themselves try to convince the passengers that unless you have a mask on, you can't come in. And of course, those situations tend to get heated. So the regulations need to reflect that. We need to reflect a less than 100% load, and then the government needs to work with the bus drivers if this thing's going to work, because at less than 100% with the increases we've seen, there certainly is a basis on which you would argue that a stimulus is required by way of offsetting the seats that are going to be left empty. So I believe that more regulations are going to be required if we're going to fight this thing convincingly. But we can't wait for a week or wait for 2 weeks while what are obvious changes that need to be made are left undone, because I think that is really where we're going to see some challenges. Similarly, I think what's happening at the hospital, to the way that we understand it, with a number of the medical professionals working, if you wish, overtime, and a number of them being tired, and a number of them having actually tested but not having benefited from receiving, what the result is, positive or negative. That those are some things we need to look at. And we understand that this is what happens in a crisis. But I want to say this morning that we have made a number of unforced errors as individuals, and we need to take ownership. And also on the public policy side. As individuals, we dropped our guard. On the policy side, there's some things we ought to have had in place that we've not put in place. So, for instance, last year, from 2020 March, when this started, I had the task with a group of people of monitoring the policy changes in every single country every day. My task of doing that ended in April of this year. But every day we monitored every single change in policy happening. And so when we see, for instance, the fact that our bed facilities in terms of, dedicated bed facilities for the virus, and the fact that we knew that at some stage we'd have to open up, that's not in place. It does raise some very strong concerns. And again, without trying to tear down anything, because we can only address this as a united society, we have to realize that these are errors, the unforced errors that we can't afford to make. Similarly, we still haven't provided for families where people can't self-isolate. And there's so many instances where people are said to stay at home, but they have a 2-room house or a 3-room house, and there are 5, 6, or 7 of them. Now, we know that it's being done for the police officers, but so many other people now, with the explosion in the number of positive cases, find themselves vulnerable, that's certainly something we have to provide for. So there are a number of unforced errors that we need to make. Now, the government alone doesn't have all the answers, but I think the government has to lead the process by certainly putting a lot of these things in place. And I think certainly we can go on for a long time, but that's really the message I want to bring, that as a united society, we can face this, but we have to own up and bear responsibilities, because, time is very, very important in fighting this virus.
Let's look at the economic or the possible economic fallout from these regulations, because with the closure of non-essential businesses, a number of our small businesses are starting to feel the effects of what this would be. Our barbers, hairdressers, a number of our workers who are employed with what we call Indian stores in town, they are without a job for the next week, 2 weeks or so. How do you see this affecting the economy, the way that the regulations, while it's meant to help our health, can it hurt our pockets?
Absolutely. And this is one reason why I have been so cautious, because I think we have to be responsible. I certainly listened to the Prime Minister's message, and I think one of the tenors that he identified in terms of learning and shifting, so that you have a more balanced approach. I believe we needed to have taken a balanced approach to dealing with this matter before. And I think I want to keep making the point again, because it's so dynamic. Right now, I believe we need to be very cautious about the decisions that we make. So, for instance, a complete shutdown of non-essential services in the way that is defined. Unlike the last time where we've left off farming and fishing, this time I can take no angst with that. But I believe that we need to be cautious, because already we're at a very high level of poverty. And this is not something we should be divided on. As a country, we have to address it collectively. Our poverty rates are the highest in the OECS and among the highest in the region. Our poverty, of course, is linked to unemployment, and our unemployment numbers have come down. Not significantly, but we've seen some decline in the last quarter. What this threatens to do by making people unemployed, both the owners of small and micro enterprises and also the employees, right? But also persons who work on contract and persons who work in indirect ways, providing services to entities that are closed, is that it's going to shoot up the unemployment rate. When the unemployment rate goes up, poverty is going to increase. When poverty increases, we have vulnerability setting in. And the vulnerability comes from food vulnerability, which I keep hammering. And I know many people believe that Grenada is not any exception and there's food insecurity the world over. I reject that. Grenada has absolutely no right, given our resources, having food insecurity. And this is something I can put down on paper This is something that anyone who thinks about it seriously knows that we do not need to have food insecurity. But the reality is that right now, because of our productive structure and what we produce just in terms of our GDP, there is going to be food insecurity. And so what we're very concerned about now is how we look after these groups. And we've spoken about it before. It's not just what we do today in terms of providing what we call love packages. We've called it love packages, and other groups called it care packages. Our love packages really found its justification, not just from this outbreak, but from the crisis that emerged since March last year, where we said you needed to put our productive resources to work. We still haven't done that. And how we do that is something that we are prepared to help with, because we think that this is a time for all patriotic Grenadians to stand. And so our view is that we're going to see this increased poverty, and we have to find a way, all of us, including our churches and our community organizations, including our good community groups, including good neighborly relations that's built Grenada and made it strong. We have to find a way to be there for each other, to cover each other. But yes, there is in fact a role for government policy in helping to provide some infrastructure and some support, both financial and non-financial, to people who are going to be impacted. People are going to be hurt. Poverty will go up, vulnerability will go up, but we have to find a way to manage it.
One of our viewers or listeners on WhatsApp asks, can you clarify what you mean by unenforced errors?
No, I said unforced errors. Unforced errors.
Yes.
Unforced errors are errors that we ought not to have made, given the experiences of other countries around us. Unforced errors are errors that we ought not to have made, given the science and what the science has said. We should follow the science, and we've said it, but there's some things we need to do. Unforced errors means, for instance, that we already know in Grenada there's been a concern about consultations with everything. It's not new. And all that COVID has done is that it's exposed people's desire to be consulted. And we haven't consulted sufficiently. Let me tell you that I monitored one of the consultations. And I have to say that it left a lot to be desired. It was a situation where you went to sit and to be told. And in fact, one of our groups, our youth group, refused to participate in one of those. The point of fact is that that's history. How do we go forward? Well, we have to find out, as I said, from consultations, right, how people believe that their own hesitancy, right, can be overcome. And we've participated in another study elsewhere where, for instance, there were 5 or 6 causes of hesitancy. And we approached each of those based on what the root cause, the word is root cause, of that hesitancy was. We still need to do that. So our perspective is that these unforced errors that we ought not to have made, because we see what's happening around us, and we knew with certainty that COVID was not going away. We said it. We should have put these things in place so that we don't have these things happening. That's what I mean by unforced errors. We can expand that to other areas, but I want to put in the agenda unforced errors. There's some errors we ought not to have made, and that's what I mean.
All right, let's take a very quick break, Dr. Antoine, and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. This is Good Morning Grenada with Chairman of the Grenada Movement, Dr. Patrick Antoine. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements, or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 for 18-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas?
Get Rubis, get going.
We are all essential in the fight against COVID-19.
At Courts, we're doing our part and we encourage you to stay at home, stay safe and shop online at www.shopcourts.com.
For added convenience, our Courts online customers will receive free delivery and get up to 20% off televisions, appliances, and homewares. Plus, if you shop with Ready Finance, you will pay nothing down for 60 days. Now, you can stay home, shop online, and save.
Remember, do the essential. Wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, stop the spread.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements? Or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 for 18-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fallage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Welcome back to Good Morning Grenada. Speaking with Chairman of the Grenada Movement, Dr. Patrick Antoine, and Grenada's current COVID-19 situation. Dr. Antoine, where does the TGM stand on mandatory vaccinations?
Okay, so the way that we have looked at this, and we're still coming to a settled place because we are studying 3 legal opinions on this. I want to just say that loud and clear. But our position on this at this time is that we believe that really it is a matter of individual choice, and we need to, if you wish, we need to ensure that we provide people with all the information that they need to allow them to take an informed decision. And after we've done that, then we believe that we need to have, if we want to even consider moving in that direction, deep consultations. And the consultations process will, of course, point to a way in which I think we can all approach this, if you wish, in a sort of cohesive and consensus manner. I'm not escaping the question because I want to make it clear that where this crisis, in fact, goes is always going to have an impact on the positions that governments take in terms of their own approach to this. But the approach that they take has to be based on consultations and the full participation of all the citizenry. If you ask me whether the constitutions provide for mandatory vaccinations legally, I think that the constitutions do. Morally, though, it is not everything that is legal, right, is moral. And I want to be very clear about that. We could enter into a whole big discussion on that one. But because you can do something by law, doesn't mean that you ought to do it. man breaks into your house and confronts you, well, I suppose you have a right to defend your property. But the way in which you do it, I think, matters, even though you may find some way, that having taken some offense, or some action, you can find comfort in the law. So we think that it really has to be based on consultation. We think that that position is not going to be a position for TGM to take alone. It's a societal perspective in which we have a part to play. So that's how we view it. Now, when it comes to the rights of employees, we think the Constitution is clear. And this is why we've argued that testing should be free. And I want to be clear because we're thinking about this holistically. If you're making the point that, okay, if you don't get vaccinated, then you have to subject yourself at your own expense, if you wish, to testing, then we're saying just as vaccination should be free, testing should be free. But then here comes the thing. How long is this free testing going to go on for? And can a state afford to continue testing people over and over who believe that they ought not to be vaccinated? These are issues, I want to be clear this morning, that needs to be subject to societal consensus based on consultations, based on a studied approach to the law and the Constitution, and based on an opinion that you lay before various groups and sectors in our society.
Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, well, they lengthened the next question I was going to ask. What will the TGM do differently from what has been done? Well, the person goes on to further ask, with a great rise in over 1,000 cases and 12 deaths, plus the regulations that have been put in place, some people think the administration should shut the ports of entry because that is where COVID was imported. What's your views on that, and what would the TGM have done differently?
I want to say that I'm not sure, and I know I'm going to cause a furor, but we don't only intend to speak the things that are popular. I am not sure if the only point of entry was the airport, right? I believe, and if they call her by ports, and I'm just not defining the question for your person who submitted it, if they mean both the seaport and the airport, then I think they have a point. I too believe that, although we don't say it often, that the seaport where yachties enter, where oftentimes, and let me speak from my personal knowledge, I can sense that the infrastructure to receive persons is not always there 24/7. So I, for instance, have heard of very good, solid reports of persons coming ashore because they've had to, because the authorities were not in place, and of course going back onto the yacht so that they can be checked at the appropriate time. We need to tighten these things up. So my view is that before we take that decision, we need to do some more work on the tracking and tracing. My view is that before we close, we may want to move to sort of an intermediary step, which the TGM group has come up with, and I have to tell you, we run a democratic institution. Colleagues know what I'm saying. They want to increase, our proposal is the sort of time after which, even though you're fully vaccinated, you can be cleared from 2 days to 4. And I did say we have an interdisciplinary group, including doctors, and that's their view that it ought to increase. It ought to be increased to 4 days. So that before we close, I think those are the things we need to start looking at, because the cost of closing is one thing. But here's the thing. What happens when you open? I made this point a year ago. I said, look, we're celebrating that we've done so well. But the truth is that it's not difficult not to have cases when you're on lockdown as an island state. But once you move from that, once you take your finger out of the dike, right, you're going to have the infrastructure in place to stop what in fact is a deluge, a flood. And I think that's what we're seeing now, that not all the infrastructure was in place. And I want to make the following point. It is unrealistic to expect that Grenada will not have any cases of COVID, not while the pandemic rages. But we can put infrastructure in place to manage it. We can vaccinate ourselves. We can test. and we can put the support mechanisms in place to insulate in some instances and to manage, right, the fallout from the infections that take place. As an island state, though, with open borders as we do, it's going to be very, very difficult for us just to close. And if we ever take the decision to close, we have to make sure that we're closing and doing something radically different. Closing and doing mass testing and mass contact tracing and so on is certainly something that we can benefit from as a last resort. But then we have to make sure that we have all the protocols and so on in place before we open again. And let me say this, before we do that, every one of us must take individual responsibility, because we've not been. We have been careless. A lot of us have not done what we should have done. And all that does is that it contributes to the risk of spread, and it contributes to us containing the disease. And I think all of these things need to be done before we take the ultimate decision to close.
Any final thoughts, Dr. Antoine? What should we do next? What happens now? COVID-19, TGM's assistance, if it intends to share any with dealing with the current situation?
TGM is always willing to share. We are ready and willing to participate in any dialogue, any meeting. It is not for the government alone to solve what is in fact the problems of a pandemic, but we must all play a part. And we share the view, and I want to repeat our mantra, that there is nothing a united, confident Grenadian people cannot achieve, cannot overcome. And we believe that that includes COVID, but it will take all of us, it will take an opening of the fold so that others can make good, contributions to what are in fact the sort of solutions to this just multidimensional, multifaceted crisis. And we have to avoid unforced errors. We should have had a facility waiting. My mother used to say, for those who she would have taught, that there's some answers you have to have baked and put down. And one of the baked and put down answers we should have had is a facility somewhere where we could take COVID positive patients who require it and treat with them without having them essentially commingle with other patients on the hospital blocks. And when I say commingle, I don't mean to be insulting. I simply mean that you need a dedicated facility, because as you talk about an activity-based approach to treating with COVID, you are essentially risking, if you wish, exposing to a higher risk of spread persons who are not infected. That's certainly something that we should have had baked and put down, and we don't. And I think the admission by the minister that they're putting this facility in place is in fact unfortunate. And I think we have to avoid that, but we have to take individual responsibility, and we have to work together, realizing that there has to be burden sharing and sharing in the solutions to get this crisis over. Let me repeat, there is nothing a confident, united Grenadian people cannot overcome. And the benefit of being small is that we don't only have to draw on the negative lessons of the United States and other countries. The benefit of being small is that we can be nimble, we can be creative, because we have a number of assets and attributes which allow us to put things in place more expeditiously, to monitor them better, and to find creative solutions faster than in developed countries. And I do stand by that. There is nothing that we can't achieve as a united Grenadian people, and TGM is ready to contribute to this unity. It's ready to contribute to this process of finding solutions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Antoine. Appreciate it. Appreciate your input this morning as well, and happy that when I can hear from you and the TGM's thoughts, your thoughts on different situations in the country. So appreciate your appearance this morning. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the group, thank you for having us this morning.
Enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
Cheers.
All right. Chairman of the Grenada Movement, Dr. Patrick Antoine, sharing the organization's thoughts on Grenada's current COVID-19 situation. Again, Grenada has 1,194 active COVID-19 cases as of 10 p.m. last night. So please continue to stay safe Wear your masks in buses and public spaces. As soon as you're stepping out the door, your mask should be in your face. Please continue to be safe. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. If they're not readily available, hand sanitizer is your next best bet. Please enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe. The Ministry of Health is hosting this morning's post-cabinet briefing. According to the information issued by the Government Information Service yesterday, Minister of Health Nicholas Steele will be joined by Dr. Mayana Charles and Dr. Taisha Donald. The two ladies that joined him last week, they'll once again be on the panel this morning. Post-cab starts at 10 p.m. So please tune in to hear some of the latest. And in the meantime, let's join the BBC for its 8 a.m. newscast. Continue to stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your terrific Tuesday.